Welcome to today's Table Talks. My name is Scott Kappelman. I'm joined by my co-host Tyce Lawbinger and the second co-host on the end of the table, Mr. Clark McGee.
Right,
Tyce,
loser number 2.
I know, yeah.
how you feeling, Tyce?
I'm feeling good.
All right.
Yeah, I was second recording of the day. I was very tired at the first one after our lunch, but I'm feeling
better. You've
awake.
caught your second win.
I have. Yep, second win. Good to go.
All right, Clark, you and I are wearing the same shirt today.
We sure are, yeah. I guess it just ended up that way.
I was trying to
realize,
stay warm because it was kind of cool when we
Me
started
too.
the day.
I didn't even realize you ordered one that was maroon.
Mm-hmm.
So
I did.
And I did too. We just have good taste, you know.
I'm too tall for those sweatshirts.
That
You
is a
mentioned that
bummer.
when we ordered these.
Yeah, so sad.
If you dried them, the sleeves would be too short or it would be too short at the waist.
Yep.
I'm so sorry.
That's
Even
okay.
the waist is a little short for me. It might be
Just-
for you too, Pastor
Yeah, it
Scott. I
is.
don't know. Yeah.
The life I live.
It's okay. But you got a T-shirt out of
I
it.
did get a t-shirt out of it.
Which is great.
And the Lord has blessed me in many ways with my height. If I don't get to wear a sweatshirt, but I got to play college basketball, you know?
That's a pretty good trade.
Yeah, it's a pretty good trade-off.
Fair enough, yeah.
That's right. All right. So today, if you've joined us not to hear about our sweatshirts and playing college basketball, but today we want to talk about mothers. We have moved into the month of May as you see this video. And so our topic today is how important are mothers to their children. So I'm going to start with the first question before we talk about the topic that's before us. Clark, what is one of the most fond memories you have of your mother from your childhood?
Oh, wow. That was
Putting
just
us on the spot.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this question beforehand. So many fond memories if my mom is listening. So let me think about this.
It could be
I'll
when you
say-
got in trouble, or it could be just something fun the two of you did.
I was gonna say something funny. Is that it's not necessarily the fondest memory, but that she would find it funny if this is what I chose to say on the podcast. But when she was angry, she would always hum hymns in the house. Like no matter what she was doing, like if she's like working around the house, you know, she's first of all I'm just moving a little faster, pulling all the things together. But she is just singing hymns or humming hymns, and I knew. On a Saturday morning, if I woke up, my mom was singing a hymn, it's probably because I was 2 hours late to the work day that we were supposed to have. And I'm like, oh, I'm done for now.
So you caused her to hum hymns quite a bit.
Probably so, yeah.
Okay.
I bet I did.
That's good. Tyce, a fond memory?
Yeah, one of my fondest memories is early on in my AAU career, we had a tournament in the heart of Kansas, and it's a long drive. But my mom actually went with me, and she let me drive. I was just 16, so it was the first I got to drive, and we had 2 of my teammates in the back. And so just like 8 hours.
She let you drive?
8 hours on the road with my mom. Yep.
Wow.
So it was good. It was fun. One of the funniest memories that I do have is my mom will still spank me if situations call for it. Like if I'm home for Christmas and I'm picking on my sister, if she has a wooden spoon in her hand, she will come over and
pop you?
pop me when I'm not
Really?
expecting it. Yeah, she's like, that's enough. Picking on her.
Wow.
So, yep.
Okay, well, my 2 fondest memories, one is good, one's bad. So the good one was my mother played the piano and the organ at church, depending on which one they needed her to play. But a lot of weeks, she was responsible for playing the offertory, because in our church, when they took up the offering, a pianist or the organist would play a song, and we were supposed to be meditating, I guess, on what we were putting in the offering plate.
Mm-hmm.
But she could not often turn the pages because it would be multiple pages that she had before her, and so I was the page turner. And we would go over on Saturdays, and my dad was the pastor of the church, and we would go in the church and we would practice, and she would be able to play and tap me with her knee or her hand at the appropriate time because I couldn't read music, and I would turn the page for her to keep it going. And so I can remember that even to this day, how stressed I was. I don't think she was stressed at all because she knew the music inside and out. Probably could have played it from memory, but she was using me. And I always hoped I hope I don't turn the page at the wrong time, or I hope I don't turn 2 pages, and that really messes her up. But
yeah,
it was a nice privilege that she gave me as the oldest child to turn the pages on Sundays. The bad memory I have is my mother did not put up with disrespect. And as I got to be a young teenager, one day I sassed her. And before I knew it, she had come across my face with her hand. She slapped the fire out of me. My head went pop. And she said, and your dad will get you more when he gets home. But I thought, you've pretty much took care of it right here. Because she popped me hard.
Wow.
It was like a boxing move. I mean, just a left hook, bam. And I was like, my goodness, I didn't know she could do that.
There we go.
So those are my memories of my mother.
That's good.
All right, so let's talk about our mothers real quick. One more question. What did your mother do? What kind of mother was she? Was she stern? Was she easygoing? Was she lenient? Was she harsh? High expectations, low expectations? What job did she do in her professional life? Was she a stay-at-home mom? And then what kind of personality did she have?
That's a loaded question. I'll go. So I learned too late in life that my mom was the strict one out of the two of my parents.
You learned it late.
I learned that way too late. Yeah. So my dad was the, I guess, enforcer might be the right word, but like you said with the story, like you'll get, like your dad will
take care of this when he gets
later.
home.
Yeah. So I was just a healthy fear of your dad. Never like I was scared of him, didn't want to talk to him about anything, but like I knew if it was something that I really wanted to do, but I didn't know if I was supposed to, I didn't want to go to my dad because I was scared I was going to like get in trouble. So I'd go to my mom. But my mom, later in life, I learned like the way she grew up, she was just a stricter one. And I would often get a no from her. And so I started going to my dad, and it was very rarely a no.
So you could work the yes out of him.
I could work the yeah. And there's no working it out of him. Typically, it was like, you got this done? Okay, have fun. So it was just, yeah, I learned late in life. So she was very patient, like an extremely patient mother. But I did learn that she was definitely the stricter one. But yeah, no, she super patient. I loved having her at home. She was a stay-at-home mom for my elementary career. And then as I moved into middle school, she got a job working at a pregnancy resource center. I guess I would have been lower elementary when she started working that. But she became director closer when I was in middle school, and that became her full-time job. And then she's been working ever since. So now she's
a politician.
Yeah, now she's a state representative. So
that's awesome.
Yep.
And having a good time.
Having a great time. She sent me a picture. They brought an eagle into the house the other day. And
wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
That's neat.
That's pretty fun. But
she is working. She's voting and stuff. They're not just bird watching. But that's one of those cool experiences.
that did kind of sound funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's down there in the Missouri legislature, but they're looking at birds.
Yeah.
That's all. No. Clark?
My mom was an elementary school teacher, and I would say she was more strict than my dad, but both my parents were pretty easygoing. She had very high expectations of me. But the expectation was, she did such a good job of just like, her expectation was she's expecting us to do the greatest we can possibly do. And she knew what the best I could do was. So it felt like it was such a high expectation, but I know that I always had confidence that if I came home and I had a B, let's say, and I said, Mom, I really gave it everything I had, she would say, well, I thank you for doing that, you know. And then as far as strictness, she was pretty lenient. She let me do pretty much most of the time, like if I wanted to go hang out with a friend or something, like most of the time it would be okay. But she'd probably be the one. If either parent were to say no, it would be my mom. But
yeah, I guess to that, my mom was also. I had very easygoing parents. By no means helicopter parents. Like
my parents
very
were not
easygoing,
either.
but
Yeah.
it just was of the two.
Yeah.
Yep.
My parents were not helicopter parents either. They were both great. My mother was
Not that helicopter parents aren't great.
Yeah, but you do need to work on that. If you're a helicopter parent, you need to maybe back off and let your kid have some responsibility and experience failure. But my mom was a elementary school teacher like yours, Clark. And so she had a lot of expectations when it came to academics. One in particular I remember as a child, if my handwriting was not neat, I redid whatever I was supposed to do. Like she expected my handwriting to be good. Was your
and
mom
you
like
have
that?
good? No, mom. As far as handwriting goes, my mom was not like that. But as much as I loved my mom, her handwriting's pretty terrible too. So she couldn't have been on me about it.
Well, my mom has very good handwriting,
and you do
she
too now.
Expects me to have good handwriting even to this day. So
Yeah.
I learned that. She was very organized. I got that from her. Her nature is just she's very organized. She's very cleanly, which that I get that from her as well. And again, she expected me to do my best, like you're
Right.
talking about, but she knew my best was pretty high. She was not going to take a half effort. And she said quite frequently, if you're going to do something, do it with the best of your ability.
Right.
You don't have to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
She said that over and over. So that's the way I grew up. She was very loving and, pushed us to do things sometimes that we didn't want to do. I mean, she put me in gymnastics for a little while. I hated that. She made me take the piano because she thought it was good for us to have some kind of musical background. So I took piano for 5 years till I could get out of that. But she was very supportive of me and my sisters and great mom. So I was very blessed.
That's great.
Good Christian woman as well. So I can't
That's awesome.
complain. All right, now let's get to the real question of the day. Since we're talking to our audience and we're in the month of May, you're going to be celebrating Mother's Day. How important are mothers to their children? And Tyce, you said something before we started recording that I think is very important for us to hit on at the beginning. And I want you to talk about that.
I talked about a couple things. I talked about the fathers.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I think in just the society we're in, I think it's expected is the wrong word, but not uncommon to have a fatherless household. And just so much of research is coming out and so much of counseling and just everything is pushing like the effects of having a fatherless household and how there's just issues in the child's life. Responsibility is just not there. I think a lot of times moms get overlooked because they're just expected to be the parent that's still there when the dad's gone.
So the dad has the right to leave, but the mom just can't.
Yeah, the dad has the right to leave, and then now we're showing that even though the dad has the right to leave, how much of an effect that has on a kid. But we often don't see much about motherless households and the effect that that has, or just the struggle that there is for the kids. And I think we just put an unspoken expectation on moms because they had the kid. Now the kid's their responsibility, and so just the father is the added bonus. We're going to talk about fathers in a later table talk a few months down the road, but mothers have a huge role. And I mean, they are vastly important to the kid, not just because they birthed them and now they just have this responsibility, but because, I mean, we'll get into it. They do so much. So.
Yeah, they're the glue.
They are, yeah.
I mean, they're usually the glue of every household because if the dad does leave, and we're not promoting that dad should leave, we are big proponents of dads being in the mix.
Yes.
Staying with your wife and loving her as Christ loved the church. But when the dad does pull out, he usually does have that freedom, but the mom can't because she's the glue that holds everything together. Yeah,
or when the dad is there and just the dad is the enforcer sometimes. It's like the mom is the one that you didn't do right, but like the kid can go cry too. Like,
right.
And just be held. So
all right.
There's just a glue in so many ways.
So let's start with, Clark, I think you have a verse that might kick us off that has to do with mothers have a connection to God in the way that they're viewed and the way God's viewed sometimes. So share that with us.
Yeah, so maybe often women feel like, and it's probably true, like a lot of times Bible verses are using men as the example. It says like a man this or a man that, but God, we're all made in his image, both women and men. And there's this verse in Isaiah, it's Isaiah 66, which is actually, I thought it was the last chapter in Isaiah, and it's Isaiah 66:13, and it says, "As a mother comforts her child, so will I comfort you, and you will be comforted over Jerusalem." So, we're told in 2 Corinthians chapter 1 that God is the God of all comfort. But I love that he used, that God spoke and used Isaiah as the vessel to say that a mother comforts her child, because that's the picture that we have. Is what we were just talking about, is God is using what we know and then sharing about himself. And he says that, as a mother comforts her child, so also will I comfort you. So it's that comparison of saying like the comfort that I'm offering to you is similar to that comfort that you receive from a mom.
So really one of the important ways that moms hold a significant place in the life of their child is just the comfort that they bring, which demonstrates and exemplifies the comfort of God.
Right, exactly.
And I know my mother at times did exemplify that in our house. She was the comforter.
I think my mom
when
did
I was
too,
really
for sure.
small. I can remember times where we all went to her for our various needs, and my mom would comfort us. So I thought that was a good verse.
Yeah.
What about other ways that moms demonstrate an importance to their children, or they are important to their children?
Well, so from a purely physical standpoint, I mean, women can just provide things to the babies that men cannot, as far as breastfeeding and that kind of thing, like literally providing for them physically so that they can survive. I think that that's a really cool thing, and I don't think that that's an accident designed by the Lord. I think that's purposeful, that babies have that connection to their mother in that way.
They're sustaining.
That's something I hear a lot at the house right now, because Brooklyn and Annabeth cows work with cows, and they're in the calving season right now, and just how
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah, how important the mom is, and just like the baby calf can't survive for more than a few minutes if it doesn't get the colostrum, and that only comes from the mom. And so just in nature as a whole, how important mothers are. That's not just in the child or in a human child, the breastfeeding, but fully.
So we can say mothers are comforting, they're sustaining. And then I think, and I'm going to use the example of Hannah from the Old Testament.
Yeah.
In the book of 1 Samuel, you've got a woman named Hannah who is married. Now, we don't need to get into all this, but her husband actually has 2 wives. Hannah's just one of 2 wives. The other wife is able to have children, but Hannah's not. And she is in that society, if you didn't have a child, you were kind of seen as a person who did not have God's favor, his blessing. So this was not only a yearning for within her own heart, but it was also a little bit of a reflection, at least in that particular time period, of her spirituality with God, because she was not blessed with children. So she prays about it. God actually answers her prayer, allows her to become pregnant, and then she is the one who dedicates her new child, Samuel, to the Lord at the appropriate time when he becomes old enough to live on his own. And just the fact that she takes the child and dedicates him to the Lord and makes the commitment to Eli, the prophet of the day, she just says, like, I prayed for this child, and I told God if he gave the child to me, I'd give the child back to the Lord. And I think a lot of our moms, many times, even though the dad should be the spiritual leader, I would say sometimes the moms are spiritual leaders.
Yeah.
And we see this in the text of Hannah with the way she dedicates her child to the Lord. So I just wanted to bring that up and present that as an option.
Right. Yeah, because then there are maybe times too that, and this is just speculating from Scripture a little bit, but like that the father might have passed or might like have been a fatherless household for a reason that wasn't really necessarily the father's fault or the mother's fault in any way. And I think that that's often how I read 2 Timothy when Paul talks to Timothy. And again, that's not exactly what the Scripture says. We actually don't know the story behind it. But to add to kind of our list here is that mothers can be nurturing and they can be the spiritual leaders. I think that they can certainly also be examples of faith for us. And I would say that that's true for my personal mom. She was such an example of faith for me. And Paul is talking to Timothy in 2 Timothy 1 verse 5 and says, I'm reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you also. So we see here in Scripture that for Timothy, his mother was an incredible example of faith that we saw. And I think that that is a really great idea too, and hopefully an encouragement to mothers, because I can truly share, not just from Scripture, but my own personal testimony too, that my mom's faith is something that even today I look back on and say, man, I want a faith like that, So
that's good. Tyce, any more?
In this route, no. But I was going to go somewhere else and just add to this list. So it talks about how they can be an example of faith, but they can also just be an example to life. We've talked a lot about men and how the role that they have, and the mother complements that and gives other things. But you talked about how like you got the cleanliness from your mom, and how like for fathers, I think like the punishment of work was given to Adam, like he was gonna have to work hard. And so I think like you can look at your dad and be like, he works hard because he has to, like he has a job. But I think for moms, they can teach their kids so much, because you look at your mom and you see how hard she works, and it's out of choice. Like she wants to serve. Like you get a servant's heart potentially from looking at your mom and seeing the stuff that she does around the house, or like with your handwriting, like these are just things that you learn from your mom that you probably wouldn't learn from your dad. And just practically how much a mom helps their kid and just benefits being in the household.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, I learned so many lessons from my mother that my dad didn't teach me. I learned a lot of lessons from my dad.
Which he probably could have taught. But
Yeah, but they were just more natural for my mother, and her servant heartedness for our own family.
Yeah.
And she did a lot of things. Going back to, you said an example of faith. I want to play off of that, not to discourage what you were saying there, Tyce. My mother also set some practical examples of life. For example, my mother taught me to iron when I was in the 7th grade, and to wash my clothes and to dry them and to iron them when I was that age, because she said, at some point you're going to leave my house, and you're going to need to know how, if you don't have a wife, how to wash your clothes, dry them, and then iron them if you need to go somewhere nice.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
I've been doing that since the 7th grade. At that point, once she taught me and gave me the example, from that day to the present, I have always washed my own clothes and ironed them. Everything you see me, if I wear a nice dress shirt on Sunday, I've ironed it. If I wear dress pants, I've ironed it because my mother taught me that.
That's funny. She said one day you're going to leave your house and you still got, I don't know, 6 years till then.
Yeah, I mean, she was thinking ahead.
Yeah.
She taught me how to cook, and this was how it worked at our house when she cooked a meal or my dad cooked a meal. If the kids didn't like it, it was up to you to cook your own meal.
Mm-hmm.
And she initially showed us how to cook various things, whether it was a fried bologna sandwich or whether it was spaghetti or tacos. But she said, if you're not going to eat what we eat, you cook your own meal and you clean it up. And so I learned how to cook because there were a lot of meals. I'm a picky eater. I just wouldn't eat salmon croquets when they were having it or sauerkraut and weenies. I just wasn't going to eat it. And so I'd fix my own meal. But she taught me how to cook them. And then once I'd learned, I was on my own after that. So I can cook whatever I want now. But my mom set examples for me, not just in faith, but in life, practical life experience.
My mom did too. I think that's a great point. And then, so for some moms out there, and this is my mom too, I'm reflecting on my own experience. I didn't have any sisters. So she a little bit taught me how to treat women. So I will say that she got a bad rap having 3 boys. We had such a funny relationship, and she loves it. But I just always gave her a hard time and was, we were just kind of crass with each other, and it was always funny. But I know that I didn't talk to my dad. I certainly didn't speak to my brothers the same way I spoke to my mom. That would have gotten me in severe trouble. But I didn't even talk to my dad the same way that I spoke to my mom. She kind of taught me, as far as life examples go, to talk to women a little differently, treat women a little differently. And I got to learn a lot through her being there because, like I said, I didn't have any sisters, didn't have any female cousins that were around. So she was really the only womanly example in my life. So
that's interesting. All right, now, Tyce, you had something, you may not be ready to jump into it, from Ruth, Boaz, and Naomi.
Yeah.
I've got one more that I want to give, but I'm going to hold it till the end. So I'm going to let you go now.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm not ready, we're going to make it ready. So we're going to find a way to segue this. But I do have just as an example of not just a mother, but a mother-in-law, in this case, Naomi. I called her Ruth the entire time we were practicing, but Ruth is the daughter-in-law. So just Naomi moves with her husband, and her husband and her sons die. She's left with her daughter-in-laws, at the time in-laws, because there's multiple. And she just sets a great example of just a great example. She's not providing because she knows she can't, so she's trying to set her daughter-in-laws up for the best life that they can live. And so in verse 6, I guess we'll start in verse 8. Naomi said to them, each of you go back to your mother's home. May the Lord show kindness to you as you have shown to the dead and to me, and may the Lord grant each of you rest in their house of a new husband. She kissed them, and they all wept loudly. And then verse 11, Naomi replied, after they insisted that they wanted to stay with her, she said, return home, my daughters. Why do you want to go with me? Am I able to bear you any more sons, or for you to become husbands? And then she says, if I could, would you even wait that long? And so she's just trying her best in this moment. She knows she's done everything she can. Clark is losing it over here, but she's done the best she can. And now she's just trying to set them up in the best way possible. And I think a lot of times moms, it might feel that way, especially if you have sons that they can just be a handful. And sometimes you're like, I've done everything I can. There's nothing more I can give you in this moment. And now it's just doing your best to send them off or lead them back to the Lord. Even at the very end, she just asked the Lord to show kindness to them. So just at the very least, a mother can send a prayer up to the Lord. I feel like I've done everything. I'm at my ends meet. But a mom is still praying for their children.
I like that. I like that. I was just going to say, and this kind of, what you've just said ties into what I wanted to finish with, and that is that moms, oftentimes, one of the reasons they're very important to their children is they carry the great burden of knowing what their children are going to face and deal with throughout the course of their lives, and yet they continue to support them, and they're their number one fan in the background, and they know that some of the journey that their children are going to take is going to include some incredibly difficult times, but the moms are going to continue to bear with them through that. And my example comes from when Mary and Joseph brought Jesus to the temple complex, and they run into Simeon, who's been waiting for the consolation of the Lord. And it says specifically in Luke chapter 2, verse 34, then Simeon blessed them and told his mother Mary. So these words were directed to Mary. Indeed, this child is destined to cause the fall and rise of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be opposed, and a sword will pierce your own soul, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. And so Simeon told Mary from the beginning, your child that you're going to watch grow up in your home, he is special, he is unique, he's a fulfillment of prophecy, but he's going to have a lot of difficult days in the journey. Mm-hmm. And you as the mom are going to have to watch that and bear that. And it's not going to be easy. And then it goes on to say later in Luke chapter 2, verse 51, that he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. His mother Mary kept all these things in her heart. And I think it's just a reminder, Mary knew from the beginning of his life and all through the journey at the key points that eventually he was going to end up going to the cross and dying and be crucified in a very brutal way. And yet she was so supportive of Jesus in that journey. Mm-hmm. And so moms do that for us. They just see the potential, they see the greatness that could come out of our lives, but they also know the heartache that it may take to get there, and they stand in the background very supportive.
Yeah, and how supportive she had to have been, too, because Jesus, while hanging on the cross, in his dying breaths, made sure his mom was taken care of.
Absolutely.
So what an example she would have had to been, and how faithful she was to his just life and his ministry, what he was doing.
That's right. So moms, if you've been watching today, if nothing else, we hope you know how important you are to your children. And we hope that this Mother's Day will be a really special time for you, for really your husband and your children, to give you the acclaim and the approval, the encouragement, the applause that you deserve, because you are so vital to the work that God is doing in your family, as God brings your family to a knowledge of Jesus Christ, and then allows your children to grow in the faith, hopefully, and follow him all the days of their life. And so we just wanted to use this episode to let you know we believe in you, we're praying for you, and we hope you'll have a great Mother's Day, because you're so vitally important to the children. Any last comments from either one of you?
No, thank you all. Moms are a huge part of both our ministries. Without them,
that's so true.
We probably wouldn't have a ministry, or if we did, there wouldn't be many kids that showed up because they wouldn't know when to be there.
So true.
Moms are just such a huge blessing. Your support is great to us, and
yeah. So the answer to that question on the title is: are moms important to the children? Absolutely, yes.
100% plus.
Yes.
That's right.
All right. Have a happy Mother's Day, and we hope you'll come back and join us for the next Table Talks.